Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Good morning. Today is my birthday, and it's a real pleasure to be sharing it with my loyal listeners. Whether you're a regular listener who's been following Season 1 and Season 2 of the Meet the Mancunian and are now on Season 3, that's fantastic, and thank you so much. If you're a new listener, welcome to the Meet the Mancunian. I hope you enjoyed this episode and the inspiration it's trying to bring to you and others. Please do check out my previous podcast episodes as well. Welcome to the 9th episode of the Meet the Mancunian podcast, Season 3. I'm Deepa Thomas Sutcliffe, host of the Meet the Mancunian podcast, which introduces listeners to inspirational Mancunians making a difference in the local community. Whether they run a charity or a social enterprise, volunteer or coach others, host a community or go it alone, all my guests have fascinating stories to tell. Sit back, relax, and listen in to Season 3 of the Meet the Mancunian. Tune into your favorite podcasting platform every Tuesday. Are you looking to organize a charity art event? We hear from Frank Dowd, an artist, in this episode. I'm delighted to introduce my guest, Frank Dowd, founder B4B MCR. Frank has partnered with 4 homelessness charities for a series of community fundraisers: Coffee for Craig, Mustard Tree, Barnabas, and Albert Kennedy Trust. Listeners can listen to Risha Lancaster from Coffee for Craig in Season 2 of the podcast, Episode 8, and to Harry Dwan from Mustard Tree in Season 3 of the podcast, Episode 8. Thank you so much, Frank, for joining me today.
Hello. Hello, thank you for having me, Deepa.
It's a pleasure to have you today, Frank, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about the great work you're doing. So tell me about first how you started your passion for art.
That's a funny one. I'm a Mancunian. I've lived in Manchester, I would say, all my life. Born in Ancoats, grew up in Hume, and so on. I had a relationship in 2013 that took me to living in Europe, both Spain and in Austria. With that, I had a lot of free time, and I used that time exploring museums, local cultural places of interest. I picked up quite an interest for art, and when I returned back to Manchester in 2017, had no job, and I thought, what am I going to do? And I thought, I know, go into security, which is my backup, and try my hand at art. And my art form I use is actually paper mache, and I make little paper mache sculptures. Now, unfortunately, the guests won't be able to see these sculptures.
You can describe one of them later.
But this particular one is made of a couple of friends. I made it out of paper mache of a couple of musicians. One's playing the cello, and that's a friend called Josechu, and the other person, the female, playing the flute. And these are a couple of friends that I used to do a lot of touring with around Spain, watching many of their concerts. So I sort of like immortalised them in paper mache.
I love it.
I've had quite a moderate success with that, and quite a few exhibitions up and down across Manchester, over at Liverpool, and one or two other places. So how it got involved in the community is in my security role. I I ended up working for Coffee for Craig on the, I think it's what they call the cold weather, the extreme payments back in 2018, I think, 2017, 2018. And when you work in that sort of situation, seeing people at their lowest points, you want to help him, even though I was being paid for doing the job I do, but I want to help him. But there's not a lot I could actually do and have much of an income myself. But I'm sure there was something. And I thought, well, I'll use my art abilities and see if I can get the community or some parts of the community involved and see if we can make a one-off fundraiser. So I got in touch with a local cafe at the time, which was Nexus Art Cafe on Dale Street, who said they'll give us a window to display a Christmas tree. So I decided to write to some of the schools and community groups in Manchester and see how many would come and help and get on board with it. And two schools got back in touch with me, and we decided to make Christmas tree decorations and display one of these trees. And the decorations were available free to the public, but if they wanted to, they could donate via Coffee for Craig, and we'll share that with homeless charities, the homeless people. Now, in that first year, even though we only had two schools on board, we actually raised over 350 quid, which was quite an amazing amount. And the people involved all enjoyed it. But it also rose more awareness about the homeless issue within Manchester. So it's not just about the fundraiser, it's about the community getting together with any part they can give. Not always about money, but it can be art, it could be time, it can be in support in many different ways. And it's all about inclusion as well, because it's all parts of the community on an art project putting together and helping another part of the community that needs it. And that's how it started.
That's amazing. I love the story that you started with, using working with them as security and thinking about how you could contribute, and then mobilizing into B4B and MCR. But tell us about how you actually started it. So was that the start for B4B MCR, or did it come later?
Well, that was the start of it. It was actually just a one-off fundraiser, and what happened is the two schools that I work with, said that they were looking forward to next year. So I knew from that point we were moving forward. And the following year, 2020, we had, I think, 16, 17 schools involved across the
Wow,
city, which was quite amazing. And then, unfortunately, came the dreaded COVID.
of
And
course.
I actually thought at that point that B4B wouldn't survive with the community being all in the houses and all restricted. The schools didn't know whether it was opening and closing, how many classes, whether even such projects or subjects like art could be taught in such restricted times. But amazingly, amazingly, we had really great success, especially in 2021. We got the cathedral involved, Manchester Cathedral, Salford Cathedral. We had a tree over at Manchester Museum, and the schools worked fantastically well, actually pulling off the whole events. Yeah, it really, really worked. It felt more of the essence of what B4B was about. The essence of, even in this hard time of struggling, we can still get together in our own little place we had to be, but still work as a big community. So yeah, yes, very much so.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And tell us about what B4B MCR does. I mean, now you're doing a lot. It's evolved from that one event to an annual event to now potentially year-round activity, isn't it?
Well, yeah, what it is as an artist, when I first started, B4V was all about making baubles out of paper mache. And I realised myself straight away that this is a bit too restrictive. It can be done and it's easy enough, but it's also restrictive. And it was more sensible to make, if I want to be more inclusive, I also had to open up the art forms and the way the community wanted to express their art. So that's how we now expanded. So that also expands to things like music. um, things like annual event, different annual events we have. We just completed one with Cringlebrook Primary School where they made these fantastic peace sculptures. They contacted me saying what could we do for their peace day, and we decided to make two life-size, child-size sculptures and have paper mache messages and pictures of how the child themselves wanted to send this message of peace. And initially it was about the Ukraine, but it turned out quite an amazing experience because the children wrote from their own personal backgrounds, from countries that they've come from or their families have come from, where peace is also needed and how it affected them. So these sculptures have been over at Coffee for Craig, they've been over at the World Irish Heritage Centre. I've just had them over at the local 11 June Square Community Fun Day. And it just sends out a fantastic message. I mean, we've not. This wasn't used as a fundraising thing in particular. It's just about sharing the message that the children at Cringlebrook Primary School wanted to share during these difficult times. Yeah. So yeah, we'll jump on it. Any sort of art projects. We've got one coming up that didn't do so well during the lockdown, and it's what we call buskers for beds. Um, you'll notice that B for B, its original name came from baubles for beds from our first fundraiser, and we can't really use baubles for beds throughout throughout the year because it's more Christmassy. So we just abbreviated it to B for
Sure.
B, and with that we can play it with other things. So B for B runs baubles for beds. B for B will now run buskers for beds. Now,
Like
buskers
it.
for beds is basically as it sounds. We get a group of buskers get together and we highlight the same issue of homelessness, but giving them money to move it for free. But we make the opportunity available that any money that will be raised, put in the cap, will be for the busker, and any money that they want to go through the charity, there will be a QR code they can just donate, and then we'll split it between the four charities. So if anyone wants to donate, the choice is theirs. But we'll also highlight it. But all the projects that we get into are only done from the people that are willing to help. On this particular project, a fantastic guy, Reese Carter, a young art student over at Future Works, mentioned this idea, and he's got himself together, a few of his friends, and six of them, I think, which is more than enough to send this message across. But it's for fantastic support, and that's how we run. With people agree with us, we run. Yeah. So that's two events we do, three events so far. So we're basically open up for any art events that community want to involved in, and we'll push it as far as we can and bring it out to wherever we can with the connections that we've already made.
That sounds really interesting. Who do you help and support? You mentioned the four charities, but is there like local collaborations that are more likely to happen, or can people reach out to you for something specific?
Yeah, it, we're coming up to our fourth year, and I say we, and the we's the royal we. Um, it's all basically run with ideas from myself, and I reach out to people and community groups and see if they're up for it, and then we run with it. The whole as the years time moves on, the direction of how Global Surveillance is gaining its own life. At the moment, for instance, we're not a registered sick org. I'm just a little organisation running around supported by Coffee for Craig. In get this month out of the way, when it got a bit quieter time, I'm going to sit down, put my registration form and sort it all out. We're hoping that our funding that we use will come to cover our cost of supplying art materials, because we want to not specifically raise funds for ourselves, but we want to supply available art resources to the community. That is there for them already, but bring it into one place. But once we do that, we also want to be more practical and be more realistic. So work with any organisations within Manchester that offer support in any form or manner that's beneficial to the people of Manchester, whether it be emotional support or ways to give a financial support. obviously, with the case with the homeless charities, it's where what happens, how situations that you can find yourself into, where to turn to, about connecting the city, but through art, I suppose, and that's the direction we're going down.
That sounds really interesting. What impact would you say you've made so far? Sounds like a lot of impact, but dimensionalize it, please.
On a personal side, I say the impact is to know that the community is willing to work and they're coming back and we work together. That's on a personal side. On the art side, on a bigger impact, what we do and what we have done is we've connected people. We've connected people in small ways, made people feel like belongings. But the effects of the artwork that the community has done, we've kept to our word and we've pushed it as far as we can. We've helped raise funds that have changed people's lives. You'll find some of the testimonies linked in from Coffee for Craig across on our page, some from Barnabas, and other charities that have benefited from the work that the people of Manchester have helped support us on. Yeah, I think yeah, that's it. Yeah, I suppose
That
there's too
sounds good.
many real achievements to list because when I walk away, I could should have said that, I could have said that, but it's just the whole connected and just seeing it all work together is probably the thing that's the biggest achievement.
Oh, absolutely. What challenges have you faced on this journey? Have there been some significant ones you've had to overcome?
Um, yeah, I mean, the whole B4B is personally funded by me. All the art materials are bought by me, all the banners and everything. That I have no issue with, but obviously as it grows, I had to be more realistic and look at ways of finding support. Hence, registering in the SICO so I can claim for grants and so on. Challenges is when you're constantly you've got a full time job to do, as you know, and you've made these commitments and these promises. And even when you want something to go really, really big, and you've made one promise to one person, you want to keep that. So it's getting everybody else back on board to get on board, and it's such hard work. But when it falls into place, that's when the magic happens. um,
That's when the magic happens. Absolutely. That sounds very true.
yeah,
I
we have another event, our baubles for beds, and I want to throw this one in because I'm really excited about this year. Um, Last year we had the support of the cathedrals and I'm hoping that this year we'll have the same support. But we've been speaking to one of Manchester's prestigious shopping centres. I won't let too much out at the moment until it's all finalised. And if all comes to plan, we'll be able to have probably up to 16 Christmas trees in this shopping centre, which we would like to give one to each either school or community group to design their own tree with their own message that will then be displayed, which I'm really excited about and is a proper achievement. I feel that for B especially. Yeah.
That sounds very interesting, and good luck with that. And I hope it comes together. Look forward
Oh,
to.
I'm more than certain it will. It'll be hard work though.
Of course. How can interested people reach out to you or learn more?
You can email me that easily at b4bmcr at outlook.com, or they can find me on Instagram at b4bmcr, or on I have my own, so yes, I have my own website, which is b4bmcr.org. I had to think of that.
That sounds good. And like I said, I linked to that in the show notes, so
Oh,
it's
I'd like to
easy
mention. Oh, sorry
for
for
them
interrupting.
to.
I'd like to mention the website was actually donated to me for free by a company called Grassroots Web Design, I think, who contacted me because of the work within the community, and I thought this is also a fantastic achievement. When you put the work into the community, it comes back in unsuspected ways, and a web design is a web page of such an amazing way. Just want to throw that out there.
It is. Oh, that's great. It's great to see that support you're getting at all levels of the community. We've got listeners from around 35 countries now and over 1,000 listeners. What advice would you have for people looking to start a similar movement in another part of the world or another community somewhere else in the UK?
I can only go on the way I've done it, and if it's something that you do feel passionate about it, I think you just go for it anyway, wouldn't you? Um, and see how far you can go with it. And more often than not, you're probably going to run the course and get the achievement you want. The time scale, who knows? Who knows? But with passion, you'll enjoy it anyway. That's what I
I
can
like
say.
I like that very much, and it's great advice because, like you said, your passion takes you forward,
Yeah,
but because you have that passion, you also understand that the time scale may take a little longer
yeah,
than you planned. So that's good advice. This is when I move to the signature questions that I ask all my guests,
go for it.
and I'd ask you, what do you love the most about Manchester?
Oh, I just love my city. Full stop. I love its life, its vibrancy. I love its architecture. I just love its people. I work security and doors as well, so I see Manchester sometimes in its best lights and also sometimes in its worst lights. It inspires me. I'm very proud to be a Mancunian. It inspires me through my artwork, and it inspires me in what we do with the community. As the city's developed, some of the communities have been demolished to be redeveloped, and with that, the communities have been moved further afield. And this is another essence of why B4B is to bring the community, no matter how far afield it is, together through these art projects. So that is another driving force to keep the communities connected, whilst the city also develops.
That's interesting. I like it because it plays to your inclusivity that you talked about. So
Yes, yeah.
that's really nice. And this whole thing of accessible art, it's really good because I love walking around, and if you see these little installations of bees and other things, it's really, I have no artistic bones, but I can admire it.
Well, you see, I don't want to disagree with everybody when they say they have no artistic bones. It depends where. I'm not going to say everyone's an artist and can pick up a paintbrush, as very much as I'm not a musician. I won't pretend for any second I am. But I think when people get the time and a little bit of peace in themselves, you'd be surprised what they come up with. I mean, one of the things I find more fascinating is when I have a community event going on and I turn up to a community group and say, right, we're going to make Christmas tree decorations. And they'll all go, no matter what their age is, whether it's the children or whether it's the older generation, they look at it, they look at you and they go, I don't know what to do. And I said, of course you do. And just leave it. And within 2 or 3 minutes, somebody's created a masterpiece of art. You know what I mean?
Wow,
And that's how it, just leave it in front of people and they end up doing it. Yeah.
interesting. Where's your favorite place in Manchester?
I very much love the city centre because, like I said, I get my artwork's inspired from the people around me. So I very much like that. But I also cycle around, not a professional cyclist. I have my own bike and I like to zip around. And I tend to cycle down the canal way up to Stretford, over up to Sale that way. I like to pop into all the parks on the way back. So I think I've popped into every park in Manchester, had a little chill. Um, I just love Manchester. Don't think I could say one place is better than the other because I feel comfortable and at home wherever I'm when I'm in the city of Manchester.
Okay. You don't want to pick up a favorite park or something like that?
It's quite a green place, believe it or not, Manchester. I mean, and being a man, I know my history of a little bit of my history of my city. So I'm very aware that the public parks, is one of Manchester's historical features. The first city to have public parks, And those parks are Peel Park, Queen's Park, and Phillips Park, all open on the same day. So they're three parks I do like. But then we have Reddish Park, which I live in a place called Levenshulme in the southeast of the city, I think. And
Not far from Stockport, is it?
that's correct, yeah. It's virtually slap bang in between Stockport and Manchester city centre.
Okay.
And here we've got three or four parks in the area. A great place to go, sit down, contemplate. The community uses them a lot, which I also like. I like places that completely involve the community, because you still be quiet in a park and enjoy your surroundings and still find peace with it all. So yeah, there's a lot of places in Manchester. There's parks like Alexandra Park's one of my favourite parks. Um, I remember as a kid, when growing up in Hume, we used to go to Alexandra Park, and that's a day out. And I still, every now and again, if I'm cutting through my side, I'll pop into Alexandra Park and have a chill.
Like it. What's the most important life lesson you've learned so far?
Be honest. Yeah, I think be as honest as you can, and have clarity. I mean, if I think I've learned a lot with running with B4B Manchester. It was initially only just a one-off fundraiser, and it turned into one of those crazy "what have I done" things. And so far, I've enjoyed every bit of the journey. It's been hard, it's been difficult, but it's the honesty and the clarity, and also yeah, keeping to your word so people know when you say you do this is what we're going to do. You're going to do what you say, or at least to the best. So any projects, for instance, there's a couple of projects that we were unable to run. I don't put them to an end. I've said to everybody they will come back. They'll just go to sleep for now, and we'll reintroduce that project when the time comes right. Because there's already been artwork and contributions put towards it, so nothing gets wasted. So yeah, I say clarity, honesty, and stick to your word.
I like it very much. Great, great life lessons, and thank you for that. If someone wrote a book on your life, what would they title it?
What's he doing now? What's he up to? Somebody stop him. I don't know lots of titles. It'll be very interesting because I very much have a full life where honesty and has become a part of being about how my life has gone forward anyway. I've had to make personal choices with my own personal decisions, and which has had major effects on other people in my life. And I think it'll be an interesting book. I think that's quite a deep question that I don't know if I have all the answers for that at the moment.
You know, guests respond to that in different ways. Some people go light, some people go deep. It's always interesting for me, and I think for my listeners as well, how people respond to it. I liked what you said. I think it's spontaneous.
Yeah,
You don't
I
have to
think
change
I
it.
will probably go on. Probably what maybe one of my ex partners has said to me is, "How did you survive so long?" And I think that was probably quite true. Um, I've had a lot of changes in my life where I've adapted more or less pretty quickly, and I feel I've had to adapt pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm thinking how did you get here so fast? I mean, I don't know how personal and deep to get on her. Um,
You, you're
yeah,
perfectly okay to say what you feel comfortable,
yeah, I
Frank.
mean, I didn't start becoming an artist or getting involved into the art world until I was 49. I grew up in Manchester, grew up in Hume to Irish parents. I'm the second of nine siblings, and left school just before I should. At 16, 15 I was actually when I left school. I got married when I was in my 20. I have three wonderful children and four lovely grandchildren. I then made a major life choice when I was 36 and ended up getting divorced and coming out. That was one of the biggest and most difficult decisions to make in my life, but one of the most truest and honest decisions I made. It was a choice of living a life that was a lie and then trying to carry that life out for the rest of your life was going to be more damaging than the damage that the initial explosion would have done. But nonetheless, still a major life change. One now that I'm very comfortable with. As a member, I feel an active member of the LGBT community, and and as I said, the honesty of this lifestyle and being the way I am, being who I am, has probably helped me be more honest in the way I approach things in my charity as well. So yeah, I suppose they're all life lessons that's brought me to this point, really, and not something, not just I've just became an artist here at this point. I've probably looking back with answering this question, it's everything in life that has brought me here. Having to make the choices that things that I thought I was going to lose forever, and then having to do my best to rebuild them, yet trying to find my true identity of who I was. Yeah, I've been major life changing events as I imagined it would be for everybody. Um, so yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. And we've had a lot of guests from the LGBT community as well. Meet Mancunian talks to anybody who's making a social impact in the city, so I can understand and I can relate a little bit to, you know, second careers and in my case, relocating to a new country at 45. Yeah, 2 years ago I was 45 when I moved here. So
yeah,
having to start a whole new career and whole new network in a new city and country after 20 years in India and then living in Saudi Arabia for a couple of years and then moving here during the pandemic. So not an easy time to move.
yeah,
And I relate that. So thanks for sharing
yeah.
that, Frank. Uh,
Well, I can totally appreciate what you just said there. I mean, because when I moved across to Spain, now I know a lot of people say it's only Spain. It's not only Spain. I moved across and lived in Valencia, and the partner I was with, because he was a musician and traveling around a lot, I spent probably 4 weeks out of every month, 3 to 4 weeks out of every month alone. And I lived amongst the
mm,
local people. So to throw yourself into a community, and in my case, I didn't know the language neither. I think for anybody to live in that situation and be able to come out and talk and mix with everybody, and especially to hold a podcast, I think it's an amazing achievement to actually embed yourself into community in
yeah.
such a way.
Thank you. I'm still very much a newbie, but I feel welcomed by the community. I'd say that.
Good.
So this is the end of the podcast, and before we say goodbye to each other, I just wanted to ask if you had anything that you didn't get a chance to mention, or anything that you want to say, like a call out for a collaboration or call out for a fundraiser.
Right, brilliant. Like I mentioned earlier before, we have our Baubles for Beds, which is our Christmas event. Now, we like to get community groups in the Manchester area, schools, community groups, or anybody that wants to help make some Christmas tree decorations and forward them to us. We can help decorate the trees. Now, with us having the event possibly in this shopping centre in Manchester, it will be starting at the beginning of November. So we would need some decorations made by the community if they'd like to support us before then. Yeah, you can chat to our website is b4b.mcr.org, or our email is b4bmcr@outlook.com. If anyone in the community wants to do an art collaboration and they want to help join up with us, we're interested. So just email us. more than happy. But just remember, so there's a one man band at the moment, so it might take me a couple of days to respond to everyone's emails.
No, totally. And I hope my listeners do come forward and support. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you very much, Deepa, for having me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Frank. It's been a real pleasure, and I've learned a little bit about all the interesting work you're doing. And I look forward to coming to one of your events, maybe around Christmas
Oh, we'd
time.
love you
That would
to.
be really,
We'd love
really
you to.
nice.
Thank you.
Frank, thank you so much for talking to me and my listeners. I really enjoyed learning about charity art fundraisers today. Dear listener, thank you so much for listening to the ninth episode of the Meet the Mancunian podcast, Season 3. I know many of you are listening in from different parts of the world or across the UK. I hope this episode and the podcast itself motivates you to follow your dreams and passions, inspired by the amazing Mancunian guests who feature here. Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Next week, the Meet the Mancunian talks to Dan Scott about sustainability. Tune in on Tuesday, 27th September to hear the next episode. Last week, Meet the Mancunian debuted on new podcasting radio channel Grow Radio, and you can listen to it every Tuesday and Saturday. Please do consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. I will also be grateful if you could share this podcast with a friend or a family member. Thank you so much.